morning, Hannah.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's Friday.
It usually is.
Yeah, if we're here, it's Friday, unless we're subbing.
Unless it's not.
Unless
That's a pretty good rule, actually, to live by. It's Friday, unless it's not. Should we jump right into national news today?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Deep breaths today.
Yeah.
So our top national story is that Trump is letting health workers deny services for religious reasons. On Thursday, the Trump administration issued a new rule that lets health service providers not provide health services, like reproductive services, sexual health services, and assisted suicide. The rule was made by the Department of Health and Human Services. They say that it is meant to protect religious freedoms that have already been guaranteed by Congress. A statement from the Health and Human Services Department Office of Civil Rights said, quote, protecting conscience, golly, can I read today? Conscience, right? Is that word?
That's it.
Protecting conscience and religious freedom not only fosters greater diversity in healthcare, it's also the law. Critics are concerned that the new rule may put people's lives in danger. I'm going to go ahead and agree with that statement objectively. The head of the National Women's Law Center said, quote, this rule allows anyone from a doctor to a receptionist to entities like hospitals and pharmacies to deny a patient critical and sometimes life-saving care. The ACLU said that they were concerned that people could be denied emergency services and that the rule protects indirect workers like receptionists and billing agents. Those advocating for religious freedom say that people and institutions should not be coerced into performing services that violate religious beliefs. Coerced is a really interesting word there. But the ACLU says the religious freedom of providers and organizations should never come above the health and safety of the people that they serve. Thoughts, Hannah?
Well.
Look who's here.
I know. So last Friday we talked about how some of the courts were striking down that Title X ruling that had to do with
reproductive rights,
and they were coming after the funding to be able to stop people from being able to access and people to be able to provide services about abortion care and reproductive services. Since they couldn't get it that way, looks like they're going to go ahead and use the classic HHS office to again reinterpret policies into whatever they're trying to get at.
That's a really interesting point. When I first read this story, my initial thought was, okay, well, what congressman do I need to call to tell them that I'm angry about this? But as you were saying earlier, the HHS, they interpret the law, right? They're an enforcer of the law. So they have decided to interpret laws that Congress has already set forth in the manner of, oh, that means that we can tell healthcare providers that they don't need to provide healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, this is the agency where a lot of the kind of the details about the ACA, and especially it continues to come down to reproductive health care. There was a big discussion about how much birth control could be covered, and their policies they were setting to say, they only need to cover this and this and this, and at that time...
Sorry, do you mean how much birth control as in, like, number of pills per year?
No, this was specifically about when the ACA came out, the Affordable Care Act came out, and it talked about contraception will be covered as a preventive health care, and so your birth control should be at no copay. They were still being like, well, they have to just cover, you have to be able to get some sort of birth control, but it's not all. And so they were interpreting it in a very kind of strict way, and advocates and, lawsuits and everything came out, and it was like, no, it's all methods,
right?
And
which is actually kind of an insane
and that
thing
was like
to think
5
about.
years ago,
right? What a strange concept that there's someone deciding that they're going to cover some birth control but not others.
Yeah,
like that seems such a weird discrimination to make.
Don't even start trying to get down into pharmacy formularies and that. It'll blow your mind.
Covered by the ACA?
just from insurance companies' standpoint, so how they do formulas and like what drugs they will cover and won't cover, that's a whole different story. Yeah. But back to this one, again, it's interesting, like, when did freedom of religion turn into getting to deny people things?
Do you want a real answer on that?
Well, I mean, really, like, freedom of religion was supposed to prevent our government from forcing citizens to practice a single kind of religion. So, you know, like, over time...
It's a very good point.
It's turned into this, well, my religion now gets to actually dictate what I do for you.
Right. And
in a business sense, healthcare is a business and a human right.
Well, sure, but I mean, I don't think that anybody... How could you possibly not make the distinction? I mean, when when a baker denies someone a wedding cake because of their religious beliefs, that story is interesting, and that story, you know, it's like good headline news. When a healthcare provider decides to deny healthcare to someone because of their religious beliefs, now we're talking about a human rights violation, right? I mean, or at least I would like to think so.
Also, I mean, so this is interesting because it's now broad. So it's saying, you know, like all healthcare providers, and that includes anybody in the building, from the front desk to the billing to that. Right. So that's really broad. But if you actually want to look at it, Catholic hospitals and Catholic insurance companies continue to use this guise of religious doctrines to be able to deny. So another really interesting piece, if folks want to dig into this, is currently and always what sort of religious, and this is specifically like Catholic healthcare providers, what are they denying people right now?
This is such a complicated question. I always have to stop myself from getting really overworked about these stories at 7 o'clock.
Do you want them to put back on that wave music?
Yes, we were listening to really lovely mermaid music before we started talking about the news. By the way, Portland, we would really like to hear your input about these stories, especially, you know, how do you feel about the fact that the Department of Health and Human Services has made this decision sort of just on their own? They've just interpreted this.
Overnight, their website changes. Stay vigilant, people.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have thoughts, please text us 971-220-5979. You know, we've got to go to Talk Media News in just a moment, but I didn't really get a chance to check in with you, Hannah. How are you doing today?
The real answer is I'm very tired. Let's just say...
Is that ever not the answer?
Yeah. I mean, if you're somebody's neighbor, just let them sleep. I know they're probably not awake right now.
Is that just like a public service announcement?
Yes,
or does something very personal happen to you?
I just can't get into it, but listen, you're probably not awake right now. But if you have a friend who you think might be the type of person that keeps their neighbors awake, sit them down, ask them what their nighttime routine is.
Check in with your friends. How are they doing? Check in with your friends, see how their mental health is doing, see how their physical health is doing, and then also check in with your friends to make sure they're not keeping their neighbors up.
Yeah, what kind of neighbor are you?
It takes a village to help our neighbors sleep well.
Oh, boy.
Oh, goodness.
Anything going on with you more exciting than that?
No, we just did another Everything is Interesting. Actually, the last for a while. I don't know if I'm allowed to well, I won't talk about other people's news, but we recorded 2 episodes of Everything is Interesting.
Does it have a theme song? Everything is interesting.
No, but I'm now going to use that sound clip if you don't mind.
Clip it. I can do a couple of takes for you too.
Yeah, please, if you don't mind. No, that's going to be, we're going to air those, and then we're going to take a break for a couple months, which we've been doing the show for about 3 years, so I'm actually pretty excited to be taking a break. But the hard thing is that the great thing about Everything is Interesting is that I'll just be like walking along and be like, oh, I'm so interested by that bug on the sidewalk. I should do a whole episode about it. And then I dive into like 10 hours of research about that random bug that I saw.
Well,
so
hey.
I guess I could keep doing that. But.
Well, hey, bring it out into this show.
I mean, that's true.
Just tell me.
I'll just end up doing 9 hours of research about the Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay, well, this is X-Ray in the Morning. We're going to take a quick musical break, and then we'll be back with Talk Media News.